$10,000 a day fines mean nothing to Trump. He should pay a percentage of his income. And, you know, I start out with how Letitia James, the Attorney General for New York State, asked a state judge to fine Donald Trump $10,000 a day until he, you know, complies with the subpoena. As of March 3rd, which is what, a month and a week or so ago, a month and 11 days ago, he was supposed to turn over a bunch of documents to the New York State Attorney General's office and show up for you know, some discussions, shall we say. And so she says, you know, he's in contempt of court. He's, you know, or she's asking the court to find him in contempt of court. Now, for Donald Trump, $10,000 a day, I mean, you know, for you, for me, $10,000 a day is a lot. Right? For most Americans, I mean, more than half of Americans can't deal with a $400 unexpected expense. More than 60% of Americans can't deal with a $1,000 unexpected expense. $10,000 a day, it's a hell of a lot of money for the average American, and it would wipe out a low-income family. I mean, could throw them into bankruptcy, into homelessness. It would just wipe them out. But for Donald Trump, I mean, this is a guy who has billions and has access to billions more. His son-in-law just got $2 billion for what Trump did while he was in the White House, you know, sucking up to Saudi Arabia. His Treasury Secretary got $1 billion. I mean, you know, $10,000 a day, if you multiply that by 365 days in a year, you get $3.65 million a year. Well, Donald Trump has every reason to want to drag this investigation out as long as he can. I mean, you know, they're looking into whether he committed bank fraud and tax fraud. You go to prison for both those things. Now, this is a civil inquiry so far that Letitia James is doing. In other words, it could cost him a lot of money. But even that, hey, for $3.5 million, he can keep the wolf away from the door? Sure, go for it. Andrea Junker noted over on Twitter, I've said it once and I'll say it 1,000 times. If the penalty for breaking a law is a fine, then the law only exists for the poor. And it's true. So, you know, what do? I mean, you know, we run this kind of flat rate fee system, fine system in America where, you know, if you get a traffic ticket, it's $50 or $200 or whatever it is. You know, you get that traffic ticket. If you are, you know, if you can't afford to pay that, then tough luck. You go to jail. Or tough luck, the fine starts getting compounded and pretty soon you're broke and bankrupt. On the other hand, if you're morbidly rich, a $200 traffic ticket, you just have, you know, one of your employees handle it. So what do other countries around the world do about this? This fact that, you know, I mean, it's an old cliche that America has two justice systems, one for the rich and one for everybody else. But it's true. So what other countries have tried to do something about this? Sweden, Germany, Denmark, Austria, Switzerland, and France all have systems where when you pay a fine, it's based on how much you're worth or how much you earn. These are typically called day fines in Europe, and they're called day fines because they're based on how much money you have left over at the end of a day. So they take your daily income, subtract from it your basic living expenses, your rent and transportation and food, and what's left over is how much money you typically have left over every day. So they may say, okay, this guy has $50 left over every day, or this guy has $10 left over every day, or this person over here has $100,000 left over every day. I mean, you've got some billionaires out there. You had Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, you know, making literally millions of dollars an hour, probably millions of dollars a minute. So, you know, you would look at them and you'd say, okay, one day's income, you know, what do you have left over? Oh, he's got $3.5 million left over. So the fine becomes half of that. What they do is they say, okay, we're going to take half of that day's leftover money. So if you have $100 left over at the end of the day, the fine is $50. If you have $1 million left over at the end of the day, the fine is $500,000. You know, and occasionally, you know, we hear a story about this, you know, like this guy, Rima Kisla. He was hit with a thick $60,000 fine in in Finland, for going 64 in a 50-mile zone. $60,000 fine. Well, that was half of what he had left over for one day. And then they add multiples, by the way, in all these countries. They say, you know, they can, in Denmark, for example, it can go up to 240 times or 120 days, basically 3 months worth of day fines. So, you know, depending on how severe the crime is. Now, this is not a new idea. In 1748, Montesquieu, in his Spirit of the Laws, wrote, "But do not rich people fear the loss of their goods? Cannot pecuniary penalties, you know, financial penalties, be proportionate to fortunes?" And then probably thinking of some criminal, high-profile serial criminal like Donald Trump back in 1748, he said, "And finally, cannot infamy be joined with these penalties?" Right. I mean, you know, across America now, we've got a lot of cities that are looking at their cash bail policies and saying, you know, this is crazy. Rich people post bail and walk. Poor people can't afford bail. They're in jail for months and months until they go to trial. And during that time, they can't earn in income. They lose their home. They lose their family. I mean, you know, just terrible things happen. And they may be found not guilty. Or the charges might be dropped. So, you know, if somebody's dangerous to the public, the thinking goes, or a flight risk, then, you know, you keep them in jail with no bail. And if they're not dangerous to the public or a flight risk, you let them go. At least until their, you know, until their trial. So I'm suggesting that this would be a good idea for us to do in America. We have tens of thousands of people in this country who lose their freedom every day because they can't cover what would be irrelevant fees or fines or court costs for a wealthy person. And that's morally wrong. It's legally stupid. And it shouldn't be happening in America. I mean, I thought we were supposed to have outline debtors' prisons. This literally, you know, I said this goes way back. This literally goes back to the Magna Carta, 1215. That field in Runnymede where King John, you know, put his seal on the Magna Carta. The 14th article says, "A free man is not to be immersed," in other words, fined, "for a small offense, save in accordance with the manner of the offense, and for a major offense, according to its magnitude, saving his sufficiency. Salvo contempto suo." In other words, saving his sufficiency, leaving him enough to provide for his family. So I think that we should seriously think about this because, you know, the system that we have right now lets people like Donald Trump just say, oh, yeah, for $3.5 million a year, I can just, you know, not go to jail. And he's got billions. But the average person, you know, no, they get wiped out by this. I think it's time to bring some common sense and fairness to our justice system, and adopting day fines that are as meaningful to Donald Trump as to the janitor in his building when they break the law is a great place to start. What say you?